Okay, we'll call this meeting to order, special council meeting for Tuesday, February the 18th, and I'll please ask Councillor Dunham to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Right, thank you, Councillor Dunham. Moving on to 2.1, are there any additions or deletions? Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. And we will move into 3.1 with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Hello, Council. I'm just going to highlight this report, Council. If there's any questions regarding the report, please interrupt me. If not, certainly look for questions following the report. When there's changes at the organizational level, at the senior level, I think it's important for you to be informed of from administration, a little bit finer details, take any questions, but also to report publicly some of the changes at the senior level. Most often we don't report out publicly. It comes through just attrition, other changes in the organization. But this one is a significant change based on the budget that was approved by council back in December. But again, just want to put you in a position to ask any questions for clarity as we move forward. This report outlines organizational changes in which eliminates the manager of fire protective services position and splits the responsibilities in new positions, Director of Protective Services and Fire Chief position. This equates to the addition of one full-time equivalent position. The adjustment is aimed to strengthen the strategic and operational oversight of the fire and protective services function. Gary Leith, who's here today, was known as the Manager of Fire Protective Services, often referred to as Fire Chief, will assume the role of Director of Protective Services effective immediately, and is tasked to recruit the Fire Chief position while maintaining his current responsibilities. It's important to note maintaining current responsibilities, as you may not see immediate direct impact due to the result of the changes in the organization, as the load has not lightened with him becoming the director versus removal of the manager position. The manager position has always carried a vast span of responsibility, responsible to the CAO, is considered the fire chief, considered the director of emergency management, oversees enforcement function, oversight of the day-to-day fire, which council supported with the placement of the assistant fire chief over a year ago. Was also responsible for the regional fire emergency management coordination. The anticipated outcomes, as outlined in the reports, is believed that fire emergency management and enforcement are considered integrated services with the regional stakeholders, inclusive of our RCMP and EMS. Also, we do have a strong relationship with our neighboring communities of Bowden, Penhold, Red Deer County. It is expected that town's internal, meaning organization and as a community, and external, meaning the region, in regards to emergency management will become a little more strategic, so a little bit more engagement with our stakeholders within the community and externally of the community. There has been significant change with enforcement and the unified approach, working closely with the RCMP, City of Lacombe, CPKC enforcement, and Penhold and the county. The town is positioning itself for growth in residential and industrial and commercial developments. As you can see within this report, the call volumes for the fire has steadily increased over the last 5 years and is expected to so as to also increase as we move into again growing within our community, but also just in the nature of some of the calls that we're getting. It's not going to be unusual if we see increased calls. Council will be directly impacted by a direct communication flow from the Director of Protective Services. Often we felt there's often gaps, whether it's coming through the CAO or an occasional visit from the manager, but now Council will have a direct involvement, influence, communication presented by administration as per your questions. As you can see from the report, there is financial impacts. According to budgets, from the manager to go to the director position is a cost of $10,000, and that one FTE position, a fire chief rollout, will be in the area of $127,000. This decision, with council support and my advice to council, there is an alignment with the strategic plan as outlined in the report. I'll leave it to you, council, if there's any questions regarding this report and the outcomes and benefits anticipated.
All right, thank you, CEO Becker. Does anyone have any questions for CEO Becker? Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the rationale or the anticipated outcomes. I think those are well presented. Just for my own curiosity, though, when I look at the organization chart, I see reference to deputy fire chief that's paid on call, and then the various other positions that are part-time paid on call. And I'm just curious, because I don't think I've ever looked at that before. I'm just curious, so do we, I'm not even sure what the definition of so paid on call for the deputy fire chief, do we always have one? Like
We do.
24/7 or?
It's a paid on call position. As all our members are paid on call, this position is not considered a full-time employee, as are the members, firefighters are not called full-time employees, but they are considered town employees, but they're referenced as paid on call versus what we used to call them volunteer firefighters.
Oh,
So basically, in the old term, volunteer firefighter, now the reference is paid on call.
okay, no, well, thank you for that. And then I guess the only other thing is I, sit on the Police and Safe Community Committee, and we keep hearing that as much as a third of the calls are actually false alarms. That would be an area that I would hope in the future we would keep trying to figure out how to work on, because anything we can do there obviously helps everybody, the people that are going out for false alarms or are costing or everything. So, yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Barclay, Councillor Bates has the proper protocol. Correct. That is one area of focus. Another one is a stronger understanding of EMS-related calls. And what is that benefits? I wouldn't call it burden, but what is the impact of EMS-related calls on our fire departments? We've chatted about that over the years, decade or so, actually, to be honest with you. But it's just a stronger awareness of what those calls are and how do we mitigate and whose responsibility is in relation to EMS. But you're right, false alarms are a draw on resources, and how do we better manage those or raise an awareness expectation of the community.
Yes, and I believe we addressed some of that recently with some new fees for that as well, so.
Yeah, my point, yeah, I know we're allowing fines, but I'm sure somebody with the intimate knowledge of how the dispatch works and all the other things, there might be. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just on this, the position and how it's laid out here, CEO Becker, I think you did and your management team have done a really good job with just presenting this. I think it's really good, really important for our community to understand why we're moving this in this direction and communicating this out to the public. As to Councillor Bates and the false calls, I would say that we've had previous conversations on tightening that up, but also sometimes I believe in the world of firefighting or taking on these duties. Sometimes those false calls, you never know if something is going to happen as well. So I think that's the balance being in fire protective services, is making sure that people are safe. I'm confident with our our new director that will be working on cleaning that up in the near future. But this is great for our community. You look at the data from 2020 to 2024, it's almost 200, 200 more calls. It's a lot of time and effort, and especially with the paid on-call staffing and the recruitment that we all have to do for the fire and protective services. So that's all I have to say. I support this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mayor Barclay, if you're ready for that.
Yep, sure.
Okay, and so just as a prelude to that, I appreciate how well informed we actually have been all through this process. CAO Becker, thank you for that. We did have discussion and we were informed during budget. We've talked about it a couple of times since then, so I feel very strongly that this is a good move for us, and I'm very happy with the decision as to who our director will be. So I would make the recommended motion for council to receive the new positions of Director of Protective Services and Fire Chief positions report as information.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any further comments? All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. Okay, and we will move into 3.2 with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So as per council's request, we have contacted Fuse Consulting for a proposal to complete a self-guided field trip tour package up and around Napoleon Lake. The self-guided field trip package would provide educational materials for schools, homeschool programs, and other interested parties, enabling them to explore and learn independently. This proposal concept is previously included in the Dodds Lake signage plan proposal. Estimated cost is just over $4,000. The field trip package would include the creation of a custom document template, reuse and adjustment of the illustrations and graphics from the interpretive signs, introduction to Town of Innisfail parks and Napoleon Lake region, useful sections to educators, such as curriculum ties for self-guided programs for grades K to 12, before your trip, helping to prepare your group for a visit, day of your trip, as well as information about facilities, supplies, and what to bring on the day. So what we're looking for from council is, I guess, some direction in regards to where to take the proposal. Three options that we have. The town administration could fund the project through the 2025 operating project and make it available. We could apply for the elemental grant to cover the cost, or we could reach out to the local schools to see what kind of interest the schools have in order to take it on themselves. So just looking for some direction from council on that.
All right, thank you, Director Kennedy. I just want to say that when I asked for this, there was no intent of putting anything more onto the town. It was just more so I wanted to find out what the cost of doing this was. So thank you for bringing that back. That's good. So does anybody have any questions, comments? Councillor Bates.
Yep, it looks great. I guess I'm not aware if we've ever asked for elemental, for something for us. I know they give lots of things to the community, but have we specifically ever made a request to them? Because this almost seems to fit to me, but.
So the policy, it has the grant component that goes to community groups, but there's also the environmental education component, which in previous years we've utilized relay education. They've come into the schools a number of times and done sort of energy related workshops with classes. We could look to reallocate that money for a year to something like this. We actually aren't sure if we will do relay programming this year, just because we've done it. I think this would be the 4th year, and I think a lot of those middle school age kids that we target have probably done most of the programming that they offer. So that's included in the report there as a way that we could fund this if there was interest on the school's part.
Well, I guess the other thing that comes to mind too is how do we get the schools to know about this, because they have all kinds of budgets too that they, I'm not saying they have surpluses all the time, but they move money around. So now that we know this, I guess what I would look for is some way of getting it to the school and bouncing it off of elemental and every other way that there's 3 or 4 sources here of funding that are suggested, that we look at that. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to Director Jenkins. I really like this. I would support absolutely looking for some alternative funding for this. I don't believe the schools have the resources, and I actually don't, I think it's more of a community thing anyways. Is there any way that this particular program can be put somewhere that's accessible to others that just want to go for a walk or a hike that is not a school field trip? Like, could there be, is this something that we can put on the town's website, that information, so that other people can use it?
I believe so. If we move ahead with the package, we can make it available however we choose to.
Yeah, well, I would, if we can do that, well, regardless, I will support this, and I would love to see Elemental come on board for this. And of course, inform the schools as we need to, but I think it's a great community initiative, and so thank you for the work.
Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I would say the same, pretty much what Councillor Wing had to say, is looking at those alternatives for funding and making sure that we're working towards putting this in play. I think there's a lot of really good work. As to the schools having money, I think those budgets are pretty tight right now, just like our municipalities across the province. But if we have partners out there, that'd be great. So thanks for the work, administration.
Thank you. Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Just for clarification, using the elemental grant is not actually taking any money from the school. It's just reallocating from one program to another, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, we've been looking at this for the last, I guess, year and a half since the signs went up, the signage went up, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And between our social media channels, our website, Innisfail Bulletin, et cetera, I think there's, great access to getting this out to the community, and even, furthering the reach out into Red Deer and surrounding community for when tourists come to town. We have whatever that old building is called where the Chamber of Commerce is, we could potentially get some literature in there as well for people. So I support this.
Okay, anybody else want to comment? Could I please have someone make recommended motion? Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barclay, I move that council accepts the report as information and directs administration to contact the local schools. Do I need to put in that we're going to look at reallocating the elemental grant? No, just as is.
Director Jenkins will
Okay.
figure that out. Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. Oops, we'll move on to 3.3, the property tax sale with Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So back in 2023, the town of Innisfail did take over a property through tax foreclosure process, and we've finally been given the final approval from the Court of King's Bench to proceed with the sale. So it is unfortunately a house that is full of someone's items, so we do have to, first step to prepare it for sale, we do need to empty out the property and prepare it. So we need to obtain some quotes for cleaning out the property, and then to clean out the property, they will remove any personal belongings, debris, furniture. It would also include any general interior of the cleaning, minor exterior maintenance to secure the property if we need any type fencing, as well as any removal of hazardous materials that may be there. So we will go through and request 3 written estimates from at least 3 companies that will detail the cost, timelines, and scope of services. Because this wasn't included in the 2025 budget, those cleanup quotes will be presented to council for formal approval. Once the property has been all cleared up, we will then engage a real estate agency to assess its market value and manage the sale of the property. The retailer will provide recommendations on pricing, market strategies, and expected timelines. Council will, however, be responsible for determining the list price, so that information will come before council before we formally post that for sale. The property will, however, be sold in its current condition. We'll focus on ensuring an efficient and effective sale, work closely with the realtor to maximize the value and implement the best listing and marketing strategy. I have no doubt that we will sell this property quite quickly. The municipal foreclosure process does require some substantial staff time across different stages. These efforts will ensure compliance with the MGA and proper handling of the sale proceeds. So the different steps that will take staff time are debris contractor engagement, debris removal and property cleanup, then retailer engagement and property preparation, post-sale disposition and financial reconciliation, and then potential time requirement is an unclaimed surplus administration. So all costs related to the disposition of the property will actually be funded from the proceeds of the sale. So according to the MGA section 427.2, so the municipality is entitled to recover all of our tax arrears as well as any penalties associated to the property. We are able to levy a 5% admin fee to the total arrears just to cover the cost of our admin efforts, as well as any costs relating to the sale. So any of the cleanup costs, any legal fees that we've had to pay so far, our realtor costs will all come from the sale of this property. The current assessed value of the property is sitting at $147,000. Now that may or may not be what a realtor will recommend a list price for. And according to the MGA, we do have to sell the property as close to market value as possible. So the current value owed to us is $5,400 in property tax and then $1,500 in penalties for a total tax arrears of $69,4930. We're able to levy a 5% fee for $389, and so far to date, our legal expenses have been $3,537. We won't know at this time what the debris removal costs are or the realtor costs. And again, after all these costs are deducted from the sale price, any remaining funds must be returned to the previous owner or their heirs. If the owner cannot be located, we can hold it for up to 10 years before it would be resulted and turned back over to us. We do know where this person's family is, so we will be able to go through that process once we sell the property. And the property will be advertised publicly through a retailer for public sale. We've already gone through the auction. We don't have to do an auction process again. Now it'll just be publicly listed for sale on MLS, just in the open market. So I'll take any questions council may have.
Thank you, Director Vickers. If the taxes, do they still have an opportunity to pay the taxes now, or that's done?
So Mayor Barclay, I believe that's done up until the auction, but I can look into.
No, it's fine. Don't need to. Okay. Just curious.
But right until that gavel closes on the auction, they can come in at any second and pay the full arrears.
Remember previous properties, that was always.
And for this person has unfortunately passed.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, no, thank you. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to Director Vickers. Is that administrative fee of 5% legislated through the MGA as far as the amount? It just seems like a huge amount of work to go through for such a small amount of money.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Wing. So yes, it is in the MGA that we are only allowed 5% of the tax arrears. So not even the total cost for the property, just the tax arrears portion.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Messaros?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, through to Director Vickers. Yeah, I think my question was probably the same as Councillor Wing's. So the comment in your report saying that this is going to take significant time, that's not going to be covered in what we can reclaim. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Messaros. No, unfortunately, that $389 is really all that we're able to collect. For that, outside of that, we now are collecting those taxes and bringing that back into our cash flows. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Messaros?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I would like to move that council accepts this report as information.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 3.4 with Napoleon Lake South with Director Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So today we're looking to request council approval to move forward with the tender for the construction of municipal infrastructure for the development of the Napoleon Lake South area. So consideration of two motions, one related to that moving forward with the issuing of the tender, as well as a request to accept as information the draft design guidelines and the lot pricing information included in the report. So as council's aware, the Napoleon Lake subdivision area, the town's looking to move forward with the installation of the municipal infrastructure for the creation of saleable lots in 2025. There's a total of 62 residential lots plus an apartment site and 1.5 acres of commercial land. So there's 11 detached R1B lots. Those will be priced for an average of $129,900. The estimated home price of, once a house is built on these lots, would be in that $550,000 range. There's 15 detached R2 lots. The average lot price would be around $104,000 for these, with an estimated home price around $450,000 to $475,000. We have 10 duplex lots. These would be in that $78,000 to $80,000 for the lot price, for a $375,000 targeted home sale price, as well as 26 townhouse units. Those will be around the $65,000 for the lot, for a $350,000 sale price. So in terms of schedule, we're looking for, if we receive approval today from council, moving forward with issuing the tender in the next few weeks, as well as the subdivision application making its way through the approval process. The contract would then be awarded in early April, as well as the subdivision consideration by MPC, as well as marketing and a lot draw in April. Targeting the infrastructure construction would start in May, with lots being ready in that September, October, pending everything going well. The total estimate for the construction of municipal infrastructure is $4.9 million. Administration is proposing the cost for servicing be financed through the land acquisition reserve to the greatest extent possible. We will again have the results of that lot draw process prior to the award of the contract for the infrastructure installation, to allow council a final consideration on the sort of return on investment and final costs before we move forward. At this point, the project is intended to generate net profit and not to have financial impact extending beyond the 5-year projection period. We also have included draft design guidelines with the report today. They've been developed as an additional layer of regulation to ensure quality construction and design. Some of the feedback we heard from neighboring property owners related to that concern of the type of property, the quality of the buildings that would be constructed in here. So that's really some of the focus with the design guidelines, is on the quality and resilience of the homes, as well as their impact on the streetscape. Those are sort of our primary objectives. Again, just relating back to council strategic priorities related to affordable and accessible housing. Again, this property is the most readily serviceable area in town. Current lot availability is quite low. With our discussions with council previous, I did do a little searching on realtor.ca, and as of probably Wednesday, Thursday last week, there were a total of 7 existing homes listed on MLS, ranging from a 4-plex unit at about $180,000, and then a few up in that high $500,000 ranges. So if you were in the market for a home, you don't have a lot of selection in the current market. So again, looking for a couple of motions for council. With respect to the design guidelines and the lot pricing, we will come back for a final formal motion, probably the first regular council meeting in March, just to finalize those, but they are there for council's information.
Right. Thank you, Director Jenkins. So I think we'll have someone make the first motion, please, and then we can have a discussion. Councillor Bates.
Yes, I'll move that council directs administration to advance the development of the Napoleon Lake South with the issuance of a tender for the installation of required infrastructure and submission of application for subdivision approval.
Right, thank you. Questions? I have a couple of questions, Director Jenkins, just in the design guidelines. So on R1Bs, do we allow triple garages, or are those only R1As?
We do allow triple garages,
Okay.
or our land use bylaw doesn't currently limit garage
Okay.
garage sizes. We do have driveway width limitations.
Okay.
But
Fair enough. And then just another thing I was a bit confused about. A couple of things. So in the general requirement and design, says the house design differs significantly from neighboring homes, and the exterior color theme differs significantly from neighboring homes. Like, is that a must? I only say that because I remember, I don't know, in a subdivision gone by that somebody couldn't have the color of home they wanted because somebody next to them had kind of the similar color, and
again, we have discretion,
Okay.
you know, and you can see in the example picture of what we're trying to avoid in terms of repetition. Napoleon Meadows has a similar requirement, as does Hazelwood, in terms of, you know, looking at those, the plans that come in and trying to encourage that diversity.
okay,
Yeah.
that's subdivision I was referring to, but, and then the point system, so on the resilience and energy efficiency, so can you explain that? Like, is that, do people have to meet the point system, or is that just hoping that they do, or some guidelines for them to try to reach that?
Yeah, so essentially what we're attempting to do with the point system, as opposed to trying to straight up require a bunch of things, because again, everything we add to this list is going to translate to an increased cost of the home on the other end. So how do we find that balance? So with the point system, right now for that section, it's a minimum of 30 points. So within those, we would be encouraging them to meet enough of those to make that 30-point requirement. There is some discretion there. Quite a few of those resilience and energy efficiency, some of those are pretty basic construction requirements in current times where, yeah, I don't think that they will be difficult to achieve with standard construction that we see with our builders. We will, sort of following today, circulate this to some of our active builders in the community to get some feedback if there's a few things that they say, whoa, that's like a $20,000 ad that, you know, that's really going to impact us, then we still have that ability to make some considerations.
Sure, thanks. And that was the reason I asked the question, was I was concerned about adding more costs onto what we're looking for, affordable homes.
And again, often with architectural, you see that in neighborhoods that are trying to create kind of an exclusivity where that's not necessarily the intent here. This is more to provide some peace of mind to the neighboring properties that these are going to be quality homes that are built.
Okay. And do you know off the top of your head, like, are there grants available for some of the energy efficiencies, or would that go through a builder at the time, whatever there might be?
I'm not sure what there is on new construction.
Okay.
But we can look at that.
Okay, no, thank you for this. Excellent. Anybody else have any questions? No? If not, we have a motion. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then have someone please make the second motion. Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'd like to move that council accepts the draft Napoleon South design guidelines and lot pricing as information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to Director Jenkins. Just relative to the topic of affordability and looking at the projected sale prices for lots. So it's the builders that apply for any kinds of affordable housing grants that come out of the federal government, correct?
Correct.
Is there anything in those particular programs that define the sort of what a lot price looks like as far as affordability goes?
No, or not as far as I know. Right now, there's financing available for 5+ unit. There's that program that I know we have a couple of other builders accessing that program. I don't believe there's any minimum lot requirement or lot price that would limit them from doing that.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks.
All right, so we have a motion. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you, Director Jenkins. So we'll move on to 4.1, the correspondence. I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as presented, unless Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, any questions about anything? All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move on to roundtable discussion. We'll begin today with Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is there was a lot going on this weekend. Our Innisfail Eagles senior men's hockey team came out the first round and won that in the best of 5. That was great to see this weekend. And then sneaking over to the arena and seeing the Kinsmen there cooking up hot dogs in a trailer, trying to stay warm. And I watched some of the 3-on-3, the Spring Fever group, the Helping Hand Fund. So that's about it. It was a great weekend. It's always nice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I will be submitting my report on Thursday before I head away for vacation for a week. I just want to remind everybody that I will be gone next Monday and I will not be logging on. Last week, really all I had was the 3 days of the Subdivision Appeal Board training, which is 9 hours of my life I'll never get back.
Councillor Bates?
I'm just visualizing those 9 hours. So the main thing that I did last week with respect to council was attend our Mountain View Water Commission meeting. And we did have a lot of discussion about our supplies and projects, long deliveries, supply chains, tariff threats, various places that we can get things. So a lot of that was discussed. Over and above that, I thought it would be good if we zeroed in just on, not to be alarmist, but I do think we're probably headed for drought discussions again this year that the province hasn't keyed in on yet. And I think I've got a couple of slides here that Juanita is hopefully going to be able to pull up. Are they lost? I can verbalize them. So the first one is just the Dixon Dam. It's a chart of the amount of water in it, and that it's all down the center there, the Glenifer Reservoir. And you can see, like, in 10, 11 days that about 5% drains out of the reservoir in the middle of the winter where there's really nothing going into it. All of this was presented by the ops director or manager who wasn't there, so it was presented on his behalf. I believe this is normal. And then there's 2 charts I want to look at. This one, okay, so what they are is the actual snowpack on 2 locations that are on the headwaters of the Red Deer River. And the lines, the short one at the bottom is our current snowpack, and to February 1st. And then the red line is what it turned out to be last year. Even though we started out last year thinking that we were going to be in some difficulty, we ended up above the heavy dotted line, which is the top quartile, and then the bottom dotted line is the lower quartile. So if you look at all of that, you can see that the current is looking a little bit concerning. Now, the other thing to notice, you've got about 3 or 4 more months of potential heavy precipitation that contribute to snowpack. but I just thought it was worthwhile bringing it to our attention. The next slide, this limestone one is probably the minor. The Skokie Lodge, this is going from memory from what the ops manager has told us. The Skokie Lodge is the one that really is more impactful. And it's interesting to see the difference, if you remember from the last one, how even last year the solid red line was within and a little closer to the bottom quartile. But again, if you look where we are, it's got potential for concern. And yeah, just wanted to point that out. Further discussion we had at the meeting, they're still working on, and you've all heard me pitch for guidelines to come out of our Water Commission that are somewhat in line with the numbers that we knew were being created in the city of Red Deer and the city of Calgary. My understanding is we haven't had a lot of communities within our commission that are wanting to take much of an active lead in this, and so my understanding is the ops manager is working with Innisfail to help produce a guideline that again would be presented to the entire board, and they are working on having meetings with Red Deer. As of last week, the last meeting they had didn't occur. It was a problem just with getting together, so that's still going forth. So you'll hear more from the Water Commission, and like I say, I just have a feeling, at least on the headwaters of the Red Deer, I don't know what the Bow is like, that we're probably gonna be talking about conservation. I think that's the main thing I had for, I also attended the little seminar, I'll say, that Councillor Messaros put on manufacturing and labor, and I found that to be quite interesting. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So, Councillor Bates, with respect to the potential drought, I know last year when we were talking about this, we talked as a community having, I guess, a policy around levels 1 through 4 drought mitigation levels, taking into consideration what we're already doing, and that consideration compared to other communities, what they are or are not doing compared to what we're doing, and the water that we use going into Red Deer for treatment back into the river again. Like, where is that at? Is that what's being discussed, Director Kennedy or Councillor Bates, whoever would like to answer that?
So I think the first portion of what you just said, the actual usages, and if we do get into where the province is starting to ask us to conserve and move to a level, we still haven't defined our levels, not to the approval of the board of the Mountain View Regional Water. And so, yeah, we're still going to define those levels. And my understanding is the current work that the ops manager is doing with Innisfail and meeting with Red Deer is to help define those suggested levels that will be presented to the board. So that part is that. I don't know how to tell you how the province ultimately will look at everybody and then make suggestions if they find themselves in a concern. That's still out there.
Yep, Mayor Barclay. So yeah, what we're working with together with the commission is right now just putting a draft conservation plan together. They have their drought management strategy, per se, that's up for review as well, I believe, as part of it. But mainly our focus is the water conservation and not focusing as much on the drought at this time anyway, until we get something further.
So are you looking that all the communities that are part of the commission would have the same kind of conservation in place if they don't already, or?
Yeah,
or suggested, I guess.
It's suggested.
Yeah.
We'll take it to the technical committee and see what kind of buy-in and what type of interest is within the commission and the committees themselves, and see where it goes from there.
Sure, no,
Yep.
okay, no, thank you very much for that. Any other questions? No? Okay, any more, Councillor Bates, or good?
No, that's pretty well it. I will add, I certainly recognize, like, we only have 6 communities, and we're all different. We have the most industry in this town. We have 2 communities on the south end of the line that are growing like beyond belief with residential. And then, of course, we have from Olds North that are on the sewer commission. So we've all had that incentive to save water because it costs us so much for sewer. So we're all different. We'll have those discussions and see what recommendations do emerge. And we are, again, somewhat at my stubborn insistence, trying to not be so different from Calgary and Red Deer, because I do believe that there's some value in holding a little bit of your powder dry and not being necessary. And again, the difficulty is even within ourselves, we're slightly different. So different things will drive different communities. But I think those recommendations will be useful for everybody for conservation. So thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. And this week, tomorrow, I'm going to be logging into FCM. They have a meeting on Canada-US relations, so the work that they're doing with the federal government. I know they've also sent people down to Washington lately, so they've asked that one person from each municipality register for this session, and they have the Prairie session tomorrow. RCMP Town Hall tomorrow evening as well, MPC, and Cape Strategic Planning later in the week. And I've been invited to meet with Mayor Wood and Glenn Fox, Chair of Equus, on Friday. And last week I was on the same EMC call, information session through Cape, and it was really interesting. So thanks, Councillor Messaros, for facilitating that time. It was really interesting. And I think there's some more coming up, so I think those resources have been shared out to CEOs and EDOs and that kind of thing through Cape. Some opportunities coming up to learn more about what's going on, even though nobody really knows what's going on right now, but we'll see what happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll move into upcoming, sorry? Oh, I forgot you, I'm sorry. You should have just stopped me before.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Last week I attended the Age-Friendly Committee on behalf of Councillor Dunham, and it was really interesting. There's some great work being done there, and there's a timetable of events in our package this week, and the topics are extremely relevant, and I hope that that little timetable can get shared out to people who need to see it and who would benefit from from attending. Mayor Barclay referenced, I like to keep my work separate from my council, but I just would like to say that the Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, the company that I'm working for, has opened up informational webinars to all manufacturers across Canada. So it's at no cost, and manufacturers can come and learn about, well, what are some of the answers and mitigation strategies that are going on right now in terms of the tariffs. And so February 27th is the next one, and it's called Navigating Your Cross-Border Strategy, and it's free. They all are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to leave you out of the
No worries.
rotation. And we'll move into upcoming events. So if there's no changes on here, Councillor Bates?
I think there are, you mentioned a couple of additions. One would be the police town hall and MPC for tomorrow. Just pointing those out. With that, I would move
Time, okay, thank you.
I
By
would
the time we
move
see
the-
it again, it won't matter.
the upcoming fence.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and then we'll have a motion to go in camera, please. Okay, thank you, Councillor Messaros. All in favor? Carried.